Welcome to Beyond Sunday at Seymour Heights, a podcast created to go beyond the Sunday service experience, exploring some of the deeper questions of our faith and offering additional content from behind the scenes and from the cutting room floor. I'm your host, Adam, and 2024 marks 50 years of Seymour Heights. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be sharing interviews with church members that have helped shape our church over these last 50 years. This episode is special because we get to hear from Peggy Blevins as she shares about her and her husband, Bill. They were here in 1974 as Seymour Heights got its start, so let's tune in now and hear from her.
I'm Peggy Blevins, and I have been here for 50 years with this church because I was there at the beginning. What a day it was. Well, it's hard to remember everything. Well, we can't remember everything. But I guess it was exciting when we were able to move from the bank to the next place, and which was a house that had belonged to a family called Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, a lovely couple. And we purchased the property from them. Well, the barn came later. But it did come after the house. And our men worked hard to get it prepared for worship. But they made it. They put in many hours of hard work. And we were fortunate to have men who knew what to do. We had electricians and we had, well, we just had all talented men who thought they were not talented until they really started doing things that they had not done before. Many of them did a lot. And of course, we were blessed to have help from Johnson Bible College. They provided us help, and I think the young men were doing work also for Christian Service, which we were grateful for. Well, we were just there. We had come from the Woodlawn Church, and it was hard leaving. All of our people had come from different churches, Woodlawn and Gap Creek, and two from a church in Bearden. And we were just blessed with these people. And I know it was not an easy transition for them, but they were willing to do it. And God blessed them and blessed us as a result. Well, my husband, Bill, was the first preacher, and he, of course, enjoyed preaching, but he was able to do it with the permission from where he worked, which was Johnson, and we enjoyed that position because we were able to visit people and get to know more people in the Seymour area. And Bill prepared sermons for every Sunday and Wednesday night. And we were blessed with these lovely people who had been faithful in helping start the church, and they were always in attendance. And many of them were so talented, they offered their services, which we gladly accepted. It's hard to tell you the many roles that all these people played, because they were all very active and very faithful. As you know, David and Margaret Eubanks were there. David had to be gone, of course, a lot of Sundays because of his position at Johnson, and he was speaking in other churches, but we were always grateful when he could be there. And Margaret was very faithful. There were many things that she could do and did do. And then, of course, the Bosdings, they were with us, and both of them were very helpful. And we enjoyed their 3 daughters who were young at that time, but they were there every Sunday with their parents. But Carol was so good, anything we needed, and she was helpful in many ways, and Larry was too. And we miss Larry, of course, today. But Lee and Lavella Richardson, they were faithful and, of course, very gifted in many areas, and we were blessed with them using their talents to help the church. Yeah. We couldn't have done without them. Then the DeArmonds, I don't know whether some of you remember them, but Herbert DeArmond and his wife came from the church at Bearden, and he seemed like, if I recall, he was gifted in electricity, and so he and his wife, and then she was wonderful in keeping records. You probably have some pictures and records of things that she kept for the church. And if we wanted to inquire about a particular time that we had done something efficient for others, we could always ask Barbara, and she would have a picture of it. And we were grateful for the DeArmonds. Helen Lemon came with our church from the very beginning, and I have read several things that she had written. She kept notes, sort of like a secretary, and maybe that was her position, I don't recall. But Helen was very helpful too. But later we had others to come who were very talented, and we used all the talent, of course. But these people stand out. Now, we had Ben Lutz. He was not there from the very first Sunday, but he and his wife Phyllis, they were, of course, they both could do many things. They came a little bit later, but not much later. But he was always there to help work on Saturdays when they were working on the barn to get it ready for use. And other men were too, and I'm sorry I can't recall all the men who put in their talent to work on Saturdays. And the women always prepared the food and brought it to them so they would have something good to eat for lunch. Well, of course, we had children after we moved to the barn, especially. Of course, we have children up in the house too, but we had Sunday school classrooms in different rooms of that house, which that house later became a parsonage for our preachers, and I don't remember how many years it was used, but it was used for a parsonage for several years. But it's just, there's so many people whom I'm sorry that I cannot recall who played important parts. in helping our church move forward, and it was exciting to see the different people. And I must try to remember some of the calls. In the beginning, Bill and I did some calling for the church, and we always tried to call on people who were not attending church anywhere else, because we were not trying to pull people from other churches. But one of the families that stand out to me were the Masterson family. Bill and I visited them in the very beginning, when we were still meeting even in the house. And we talked to them about the church and inviting them to attend. And now they had 3 children at the time. They had 3 little girls. And the thing I want to emphasize is they have been faithful to the church even today. If you I'm sure you've seen them, but on Sunday mornings they're always in church unless they're out of town. And they still attend, and they are there on Sunday mornings, and anytime that we have something special. If they're not working, they are at church. And it thrills me to think back on them, and when we were in their house, inviting them and telling them about the church. So it makes you feel like that a lot of good came from those early days. In our work at the church, as we progressed, first of all, we certainly tried to do the support immediately of their what we needed for the church, and especially purchasing property and all. We needed to get borrow money, but yet we needed to be ready to pay it back, which we always did. We were blessed. The Lord blessed us to be able to make all of the payments on time. And then we realized that we needed to branch out as we could, and I don't know even who mentioned supporting missionaries, but someone in our group did. And I am grateful for the first ones because they were already serving on the mission field, but the first ones were John and Benita Pryor. And I guess I'm a little prejudiced because Benita is our daughter. And we were very grateful that someone brought up their names. It was not Bill and me, but we certainly did approve. And we were able, through the church, not only to meet all the demands of our church, but we were able to branch out and support missionaries. And we supported Johnson because they were wonderful to us, and so many of the students helped us in the beginning in some of even the work that we were doing, that physical work, but they also pitched in and did a lot of the teaching of classes. Of course, I do know that I won't be around for the next 50 years, but I am grateful for the 50 years that God has allowed me to be among so many wonderful people. We have met people through the years whom I cannot possibly remember, but I am so thankful that God gave me the opportunity to be here for 50 years and see all the many things that have been accomplished, because our church now, in fact, several Sundays ago, Lee Richardson was still living at the time, but he, one Sunday morning, came over to where I was sitting and he said, "Peggy," we had a big crowd that morning, and he said, "Peggy, can you imagine, or did you ever think 50 years ago," well, he didn't say 50 years ago, he just said years ago, in the very beginning, that we would have this many people in attendance at the church? Well, I remember tears came to my eyes, but I said, yes. I said, I have thought that several Sundays as I sat in worship. As I looked around, I could not imagine that first day in the church as a group that we would ever be blessed with this many people. But only God could provide that for us, and we are grateful to Him.